arc of the war's aftermath could put his fellow Democrats in further jeopardy in next year's midterm elections and harm his agenda if they see a need to distance themselves from him. So, back with us tonight, James Carville, veteran Democratic strategist who rose to national fame with the Clinton campaign effort. He is co-host of the Politics War Room podcast. And Mike Murphy, veteran Republican strategist, co-director of the Center for the Political Future at the University of Southern California. He is co-host of the Hacks on Tap podcast. Gentlemen, good evening to you both. James Carville, let's get right to the politics of that. You heard McCarthy, Biden has embarrassed the United States on the world stage, speaking on a network that has consistently covered this along these lines. Joe Biden has turned his back on these people, but we do not want any of them coming here. James, do midterm voters in 2022 carry foreign policy along with them when they go to vote?
Well, first of all, there's no elegant way to lose a war. We lost this war 15 years ago. All Joe Biden was doing is telling us what time it is. And the hysterical and stupid coverage of the mainstream press, it's been awful. Just read New York Magazine, Josh Marshall on Talking Points. What's hurting Biden's approval now more than anything is this virus has just come back when people thought that it was not. But it's kind of hard to know. And Admiral Mullen, who's one of the most courageous people in uniform, said, look, I was just wrong about this in 2011. Only one of the few people in this whole establishment that recognized the fact that this was a lost war and Biden didn't do anything but tell us the truth. And the evacuations are actually going much better than a lot of people expected. But there's no good way to lose a war, right? I didn't serve in Vietnam, but I was in the Vietnam era vet, and we lost that war. It looks bad. The country looks bad. When you lose a war, you don't look good. This war was lost a long time ago, and Joe Biden had nothing to do with losing this war. He wanted us out before this.
Mike Murphy, here's a quote from the Wall Street Journal editorial board. Mr. Biden is bowing to Taliban demands, reiterated on Tuesday not to extend the deadline. He's rejecting the advice of such G7 leaders as Britain's Boris Johnson and Emmanuel Macron of France to stay longer to get more people out of the country safely. And he is abandoning thousands of Afghans who fought with the U.S. and NATO to the Taliban's brand of retribution. Mr. Biden has negotiated with the Taliban from a position of weakness. There's a lot there, Mike, including imagine ignoring the advice of Boris, it's the same as the flu, Johnson, and imagine pointing out that the deal came during the Trump administrations. Are Republicans right to weaponize this, knowing the pictures of Pompeo, knowing the role the Trump administration played?
Well, the old are they right to weaponize it in politics question kind of pulls at the thread of the big sweater for either party, because parties weaponize moments where the opponent is in trouble. It's absolutely true that Donald Trump started this. He sent the flowers to the Taliban. They gave him a phony peace in exchange for a slow motion surrender, and Biden has caught it. But the politics are also that the clumsiness of all this is a real problem for Biden. Plus, he's going to own Afghanistan going forward, which is a thorny mess you don't want to own. He can debate the larger question of should we be out. I think most people agree with Biden that we had to get out, but that's not where the debate is. The debate is the status quo. Biden did a good job earlier in his term of going and starting to repair some of the damage Trump had done with the Europeans. But the way this was conducted, where they feel totally mugged and not like they were in a partnership, is a big problem. And I think the optics are terrible, and frankly, the policy is terrible. To send a head of CIA down there to talk to the Taliban and at least have the media framing, and maybe it's fair, maybe it isn't, that they said boo, and now we're cutting out even when our European allies who we ought to get closer to say we ought to play a stronger hand for a little more time to try to do a full evacuation. Now, that said, by the way, the middle-level people in the military are doing an incredible job. Biden should be proud of these numbers. I think he's more a recipient of that good news than a cause for it. But, you really got to hand it to the Military Forces Department of State of the amazing numbers they've done. And maybe that does give Biden a little bit of cover now. We'll see.
So, James, same question I asked Claire. Does Biden need more friends and more vocal friends in Washington to point all this out?
Well, first of all, it would be greatly benefited if the press would cover this accurately. And yes, you always have mealy-mouthed Democrats. And I can't tell you the number of phone conversations. I said, well, James, I mean, damn, man, you did the right thing by getting out, but just going about it the wrong way. And I've said, did they teach a course at West Point or Annapolis or Johns Hopkins on how to lose a war? No. There's no good way to lose a war. We lost this war. We lost it a long time before Joe Biden became president. All he's doing is getting us out of there. And I'm sorry, this is not the Battle of Midway, all right? This is a defeat, and we got to understand that as a country. But of course, we plowed right into this after we did Vietnam, after we did Iraq. Warren Buffett said the only thing people learn from history, people never learn from history. I hope that some of these images will cause us to take a deep breath before we go off on some other Wall Street Journal-sponsored adventure around the world.
Over the door of the National Archives, it says past his prologue, and it's written there. It's chiseled there for good reason. Thankfully, both of these gentlemen have agreed to stick around while I fit in a break.